Okay, this Thursday, Jack Semple and his band will perform at the Orpheum Theater with special guest The Last Birds. Jack, I want to thank you so much for joining me here today.
My pleasure. I love to be here.
Now, over the years, you've dabbled in quite a few different musical endeavors. You did some compositions for television, which I think is really awesome. You were voted Canada's top guitar player with much music, which is really interesting. You've put out records. You've done tributes to Lightfoot and B.B. King, which I really enjoyed. I thought you did such a great job with that. And of course, countless live musical performances. My first question, do you ever think you'll get to the point where the thrill is gone?
I certainly hope not. No, the thrill, it comes and goes, but it always comes back. This last year and a half, there hasn't been many thrills, but the thrill is back, baby. It is back now because playing for a live audience is so exciting, especially after not having done it for so long. The audiences, I've had a couple of gigs now since the restrictions have been lessened, and the audiences are really enthusiastic because they are entertainment starved.
Well, and I'm sure yourself included, you're able to feed off of that because I'm sure you're entertainment starved as well.
Oh, absolutely. I haven't seen a live band in 2 years. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, YouTube and everything, but it's not the same. Streaming gigs are not the same as being there, so that's why I'm so excited about this gig because it's going to be there with a live audience.
Now, who are you going to be bringing down to play with you?
I'm going to be bringing Brent Jefferson. He is also known as Sparky Gonzalez. We can go into that if you want, but it's a long story. He's a sensational drummer. His father is Ken Jefferson, who is like the first gigs I ever did when I was young, living in Regina, were with his dad. And they're all brilliant musicians in that family. Brent's brother is Kelly Jefferson, who's a top shelf jazz saxophone player in Toronto, and Brent is a killer drummer. He's just really remarkably good. The bass player I'm playing with is Danny Jones, who is classically trained, and he's a great jazz player, and he's a great rock and blues player too. He's playing electric guitar, electric bass with me, and he plays with the Regina Symphony, and he's a smoking bass player.
So over the years, you've played so many great songs. I'm sure, like with all the experience with the band, how hard is it at this point to actually put a set list together?
Oh, there's a lot of tunes I can choose from for sure. I just before the pandemic hit, I had a new CD out called "Can't Stop This Love," and I've hardly played those songs live at all because of the pandemic. So I'm looking forward to playing a bunch of those. It's always nice to play new music. But I also put in some B.B. King tunes in the set, and a couple of Gordon Lightfoot tunes. I play a little bit of acoustic guitar in the show, and then also with the trio.
Now, when you were doing the B.B. King tribute, I'm sure you played a bunch of his songs when you were growing up and over the years, but did that change your playing at all?
Yeah, it absolutely did, because B.B. King is a master of phrasing. Like his playing is very linguistic. It sounds like he's talking. And guitar players, when when you're practicing all the time, it's easy just to play forever, notes, 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 notes. But it's like somebody who talks too much, it gets boring. But B.B. King had he would put long pauses between phrases, and it just made the music sing. Made his playing sound like Lucille.
Yeah, and you actually did change up playing a little bit for doing that work. You started playing a Gibson compared to the Strat. Are you still is that like a mainstay with your live playing now?
Yeah, well, my 335, which is the Lucille guitar that B.B. King played, it's a much different than the Stratocaster, which is my usual guitar, but I've really grown to love it. I love that guitar. It's like a different, like it comes from a different country or something. It's got a different accent.
That's fair. Now, you get described a lot as being a virtuoso, not even just from like regular music listeners, but also from your contemporaries. I imagine that's never really been like one of the main thoughts for you. I assume just like with the way you play that it's always just been about the music more than trying to get to that, say, virtuoso status.
Yeah, I don't think about that at all. I just try and play and make myself happy. I certainly do practice because when you get on stage and you've practiced and you're warmed up and you're ready, it's so easy, and it's just like breathing. If you haven't warmed up, playing an instrument is always a physical endeavor, And if you haven't warmed up and practiced and stuff, it's not as fun. But if you're ready and you practiced and you're warmed up, it's really a lot of fun.
Now, Saskatchewan is no stranger to really talented guitar players. Where do you think that comes from? Is it that for a long time there was not a lot to do other than maybe pick up your guitar and hang out with the family?
I guess so. I don't know. I mean, there are some tremendous musicians, tremendous guitar players. Jordan Cook, Derek Kessler is a guy from Saskatoon who I've only recently met, who's absolutely brilliant. There's Dan Silger in Regina. There's Chris Craig in Regina. There's Ken Burton, and there's lots of other musicians. Kyle Ryabko. Anyways, don't ask me why. Every area, every geographical area, has something in the water that produces a certain thing, and it seems like guitar players is what Saskatchewan produces.
Now, what about Saskatchewan brought you back? Because you did have the opportunity to leave here and to kind of go your own way and out east, but you came back,
Yeah.
and even with your albums, you have, I think, like it's 2 albums that make Saskatchewan references. What is about Saskatchewan that made it so you couldn't stay away?
Yeah, well, I lived in Toronto for a couple of years and worked there, and I decided I'd rather live in Saskatchewan because it's my home, my family's here, and as it turns out, this particular time in the Earth's history, I think it's a great place to live. We're not too close to the ocean. We are a very secure and safe place to live, and the main reason I came back here was for my family reasons. But as it turns out, it's a great place to be right now at this point in time.
Now, 95, you put out Saskadelphia. Around the same time, the Tragically Hip, they wanted to use the same title. Their label allegedly said, nah, it's too Canadian. Let's not go with that. How surprised were you when this album came out? And, have you ever heard Saskadelphia from anywhere else besides yourself and your album?
Well, yes, I have. I got the name. There was a band from Toronto called Shadowy Men on a Shadowy Planet. And I think they made the theme song to the comedy show Kids in the Hall. And, they played instrumental, kind of surf music, like the Ventures. And they had a video way back in the 80s. And I remember watching this video and seeing the word Saskadelphia float across in kind of a mystical kind of atmosphere. It was weird. And I thought, wow, what a cool name. So I actually called them up and I asked them if I could use the name. And they said, oh, well, we just made it up. I don't care. Yeah, go ahead. And then when I heard that Tragically Hip, named their most recent album Saskadelphia, I thought, wow, what is the true origin of this word? I don't know who made it up. I don't know who coined it. I stole it before they stole it, I think. But I don't know. Yeah, it's a really cool name because what it means to me is, Philadelphia is a home of soul music. A specific kind of American soul music, and so is Saskatchewan. We got our own bluesy soul thing, like Colin James and Kyle Ryabko and those dudes. So I thought it was a really great combination of phrases and or syllables, and that's the story.
That's awesome. Now, I noticed on your website you talk about giving lessons and engaging, say, the next generation of guitar players and musicians.
Yeah.
When you're doing that, how much of it is trying to just get the technical aspects across? Because I saw an interview with you once talking about how you had a really great teacher that really paved the way for you. How much of it for you is trying to give the technical aspects of the guitar, and how much of it is just trying to instill a love for music?
Yeah, well, it's both, of course. Without the love for music, you won't practice. You won't spend time on it. There's a lot of technical stuff to learn. I mean, if you want to play at a professional level, there's a lot to learn. But at the same time, you don't want to be bored and just have your teachers giving you scale after scale after scale, and it's like, what do I do with this? So, sometimes in the lessons, well, the cool thing about Zoom is that you can go on YouTube and watch Jimi Hendrix at a certain point in his career playing a certain song, and you can watch it together. And it's always good to listen and watch, aside from, here's a harmonic minor scale, you got to play it in 5 positions, you got to do that too. But you also have to have the reason and the motivation to do it in the first place. And that's why watching B.B. King and watching, there's a couple of B.B. King performances that are on YouTube that are just masterful, and you got to just soak it up. You just got to watch it and go, wow, that's how it's done right there. and then when you get that, then you go, okay, now I'm ready to do the work to get there.
So at this point, after playing for so many years, do you still come across things in music that get you really excited, that you feel like you're breaking new ground again?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every day, every time I pick up my guitar, I discover something new. It's the best toy I ever had. I'm not bored with it even now after playing it for my whole life. But there's endless amount of information on the internet about music of every description. I mean, there's guitar lessons that'll keep you busy for 2 lifetimes. So if you're ready to work and actually ready to practice, there's no shortage of stuff. And with Zoom, you can take lessons from any person in the world. I mean, all the guitar players are out of work right now. So there's a lot of brilliant musicians out there who'll spend an hour one-on-one with you on Zoom, which is ridiculous. I've had lessons from Brent Mason, who's like the top shelf country session player in Nashville, Frank Vignola, who's one of the top jazz players in New York City. I've had Zoom lessons with both of these guys, and it's inspiring. Because you get to actually communicate with them in real time with your guitar strapped on. It's amazing that you can do that.
So who is teaching who?
Oh hell, I was getting schooled by those guys. I mean the level of country picking that Brent Mason has is equal to the level of astrophysical jazz chops that Frank Vignola has. They're just two sides of the same coin, And so it's inspiring to see somebody who's so good. You see somebody who just rips the top of your head off, you go, wow, that is so amazing. It's inspiring.
Yeah, no, that must have been pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So Thursday, you have this show. I know a lot of people are really excited to be able to see some live music once again in our great theater that we have here in Estevan.
Yeah.
What do you think people can expect for what you guys are going to be playing? Do you already have it figured out, or do you guys just kind of wing it each night and see where it goes?
Well, I know I have a set list, which I always deviate from. As my band will tell you. Because, once you get there and you play the first couple of songs and you get a vibe for where the audience is at and everything, then you adjust, to be in sync with them. If they're really raucous and screaming and yelling, then it's balls to the wall. And if they're a little more polite and sedate, then you take the acoustic out and you play something that's appropriate for them. You do it on the fly.
Well, I think you're going to get a really good vibe from the crowd here. I know a lot of people love to dance to music and have a really good time. So it'll be exciting once it all goes down. And I guess the last thing I want to ask about that is just, do you still have like a song that gets you excited about playing guitar as you did when you were a kid? Like, do you have one right now that you just absolutely love playing?
Yeah. There's a song called Rainy Night in Georgia that I've played 1,000 times. And every single time I play it, I could just play it all day long. It's just a weird, magical song.
That's awesome. Well, Jack, I really look forward to you coming into Estevan and putting on a great show.
Me too, man. I can't wait.